Hello and welcome to another episode of Toxic Love Transformation. I'm your host, Stephanie McPhail. And today we're going to talk about understanding and identifying toxic relationships and then healing from them. Because I think that sometimes we're not even sure. We get into this questioning phase. We're thinking something is wrong. But it's hard for us to really identify what it is. And then, of course, if we've already identified, then the important thing is to be able to heal from those toxic relationships. So make sure you ask questions. We're here to answer all the things that you have about healing from toxic relationships. So go ahead and, write any comments that you have or reach out to me if you need to. So understanding toxic relationships. Toxic relationships, I like to say, are relationships that when you are with that person or when you are away from that person, you notice that you are feeling depleted. You are not inspired. You are not motivated. You are not supported. You don't feel good when you're around them. You might have a negative feeling in your chest or in your stomach when you're around them. They cause you stress. They cause you anxiety. When you are in a toxic relationship, you don't feel respected. You don't feel cared for the way you want to be. And of course, toxic relationships are not just romantic relationships. They are also friendships. They're also business types of interactions, family types of interactions, all those different types of relationships. Now, we focus mostly on romantic relationships, but this can actually go across the board for all these different types of relationships. So I don't necessarily always want you to look at whether or not that person is a narcissist. That is the big word that everyone is searching out. And if it resonates for you, then that's fine. I like to just say toxic relationships because instead of focusing on what's wrong with the other person, if we say that we're in a toxic relationship, we can look at how we feel when we are in that relationship. So it kind of takes the focus off of the other person and allows it to be focused back on us. And that way we can make the changes that we need to. So hopefully that makes sense. I do talk about narcissism, of course, because that is one of the toxic types of relationships that we are looking to heal from. But since there are so many different types and not everyone's a narcissist, I like to just stop the research phase and go right into what am I feeling and what's going on. So what do these types of relationships, how do they affect our mental and emotional health? Well, there's actual studies that, with narcissistic relationships, we actually get brain damage. We actually have seen the frontal lobe deteriorate when we are in these toxic relationships, because you have to think about it. If you are in this relationship and you're constantly walking on eggshells, you're constantly trying to make the other person happy, you are feeling like you're too much. They keep telling you that, that they are not happy with any decision that you make. They blame you for everything. They take no responsibility. It really, really messes up our mental health because we question everything. We don't trust ourselves. We don't trust our ability to make the right decisions for ourselves. So we get more and more lost, which is actually one of the reasons why I get really, really frustrated when people say, why did that person stay with them as long as they did? One of the reasons is because we are so much questioning everything. We don't trust ourselves at all. We don't even trust ourselves to make the right decision when it comes to a relationship that we are in. So instead of asking somebody why did they stay for so long, try to help support them and start really healing that mental emotional health, because that's the part that takes a really long time to actually heal from. So that part of healing is, of course, very detrimental when it comes to toxic relationships. And like we said, we talked about some of the signs and symptoms. And if you want to self-assess whether or not you're in a toxic relationship, like I said in the beginning, how do you feel? Do you feel like this is your best friend? Do you feel like this is someone that you can talk to? Do you feel like this is someone that values you, someone that respects you, someone that honors you, someone that wants you to be the best version of yourself? Those are the really important questions to ask, because again, I think that when we are in this, because we're so confused, because they are so good at manipulating us, they tell us that we're wrong all the time. So instead of focusing on how we feel, instead we focus on like, well, is this a trait of a narcissist, or did I do something wrong, or what, and we ask other people to tell us if we're right, again, because we're so confused on what is the right thing. So again, refocus on self, refocus on how you feel, and then ask yourself the question, how do I feel around them? And how long have I felt this way? And then I take it a step further. Am I able to talk to them about it? Or do they use this against me if I try to bring anything up? Are they, again, manipulating and trying to, lower who you are They're trying to, disrespect you. They're not supporting you, any of those things. They're not listening to you. They're not actually trying to make changes when you bring something up. So, okay. So what happens when you're in this process? So of course, when you're in the romantic relationship, or you're in whatever type of toxic relationship that you are in, there tends to be a roller coaster. They're not terrible all the time. If they were terrible all the time, it'd be a lot easier. Of course, the longer you stay, the more frustrated and overwhelmed and just fed up with the whole thing. But most of the time, there are good moments. And when you end these types of toxic relationships, there's also an emotional roller coaster that happens after we leave. And this is totally normal. But the reason why this happens is because at first we're so elated, we're so happy, we're so excited that the relationship is over, that we were finally able to end it. We're exhausted, we're stressed out, all these different things. But then instead of us feeling automatically better, a lot of us will start to feel worse. And like for me, I was like, why would I feel worse? I'm just going to never do that again. That's what I told myself at first. And then once I started to date and realized I was doing it again, I was ending up with the same types of toxic people. I had to really start looking at where I had made the same mistakes over and over again. And that was very overwhelming. That was very stressful because I had been avoiding my feelings for so long that I was able to avoid all the terrible things. I was like compartmentalizing all the bad things that were going on and like putting them off to the side. Tell me if that resonates for you. It's like a pressure cooker, right? We suppress. And then as we start healing, those emotions start coming out. And one of the biggest things that we help people through is actually allowing themselves to feel the feelings. And I promise you, as you feel the feelings, as you start to notice and start to rediscover who you are and start to really go through the process, you're going to start to be more even. Things are going to start to become more normal and healthier. But after you leave and during that healing process, it's definitely a bit of a roller coaster because there's the highs and lows and we think back to all the things we've experienced. We grieve the relationship. We grieve what could have been. We grieve the time that we spent with them. So again, all these different feelings that are coming out, which is what causes it to be so overwhelming when we are healing. So it's really important to focus on self-care. We're a holistic type of practitioners. So, my background is health. I was a health teacher for 18 years. And for me, really getting myself back into equilibrium was really, really important. So one of the things that we remind clients is we've got to make sure that we're making ourselves a priority. So self-care is actually making sure we're going to the gym or working out at least 3 days a week, 30 minutes each time, getting into a meditative practice where you're doing meditations every day, even if it's just 5 minutes, where you're getting your 7 to 8 hours of sleep every night, where you're creating a social environment so that you have friends and people that you can spend time with, where you are, we said meditation, yoga practice. That's another really great thing because with trauma, we tend to disassociate from ourselves, from our bodies. So we want to be able to reconnect body and mind together. And yoga is a moving meditation. It's a really great way of reconnecting. Sometimes something as simple, of course, I train everyone to drink their healing green smoothies, which is spinach, fruit, and frozen fruit, and chia or flaxseed, because it's anti-inflammatory. When we're extremely stressed and overwhelmed, we're causing ourselves to have inflammation, which causes health issues. And those of us who have been in a toxic relationship, I'd say a large percentage of people that come to us have also had health issues because of the high inflammation. Then we're probably not eating as well, not sleeping as well, all that. So we want to hyper nourish our bodies with our healing green smoothies. And something that is super simple, it sounds, but actually can be life-changing is making sure that we are drinking our water. You're supposed to be getting 96 ounces of water every day. And I'm sure some of you are saying, Stephanie, I'm going to have to pee every 5 minutes if you make me drink 96 ounces of water. You're supposed to have pretty much clear urine. Most of us are prunes. We have not been drinking enough water. Most of my clients come to me, they're like 32 ounces a day, and that's it. You are dehydrated. If you want to heal, you want to think clearly, you want your body to feel good, not only do you need to hyper nourish yourself, but you also need to make sure that you're getting enough water. So part of your self-care and recovery is making sure that you are, giving yourself your water, giving yourself your green smoothies, and doing all of those things that we talk about. And I say all the time, your accountability to yourself for your self-care. We do a daily accountability sheet, but give yourself a checklist. How did I take care of myself today? And, did I have my 96 ounces of water? Did I drink a green smoothie? Did I get my 7 to 8 hours of sleep? Did I incorporate my meditation and, my social events and all those different types of things? Did I keep those things in my daily routine? And of course, some days we're going to be better at it than others, but the more stressed out we are, the more we need to focus on that self-care when it comes to recovery. All right. I said a lot. Any questions so far? Because that piece is like a really, really, really big piece of the healing process. The next one is we want to break free from the toxic patterns. Most of us will say to ourselves, I don't need help. I can do this on my own. I don't need to get anybody else's support. But the thinking that got us here is not going to be the thinking that gets us out. So we have to look at where we are repeating toxic patterns in relationships. If we are hyper independent, and when we're hyper independent, it's normally a trauma response because we haven't been able to depend on anybody else. So we have to depend on ourselves. We don't want anyone else to help us. We don't want to bother anybody. That keeps us stuck because that shame and guilt is keeping us from asking for help. That fear of somebody taking advantage of us or not understanding or not trusting that other person will keep us from actually getting the help. So that could be a toxic pattern. We have to be able to accept help as much as we are giving help. So we have to look at that part. Then we have to look at what kind of boundaries we're having. I literally just had a conversation about this with a client the other day. And we were talking about how she really, when she would meet someone and they needed help, or she could tell that there was some issues going on or whatever. This is a very successful person. And, that it was actually like an attraction for her when she met someone that had issues going on. And so, again, what is okay with you? And so I said to her, well, if you meet someone and you're like, oh yeah, they've got all these issues, or I need to prove to them that what love is, or I need to be more supportive. Like these guys were always like, she's very successful. The guys that she's attracted to are always ones that are not very successful in their life and their businesses. Are not looking to create more money for themselves. They have very low expectations. And she said, she's like, I didn't want to feel like I was too good for them. I didn't want to act like I was better than them. But what is it that you want? Do you want someone that you have to take care of? Do you want someone to fix? Do you need another project? You can do that in your volunteer work. You can do that in your, professional work, but we don't need you doing that in your romantic relationship. And this is another part too, is that part of this for her was feeling like she had a project to work on, but it also was a little bit exciting. It was a little bit different to focus on somebody else's problems and not focus on hers. And so it made her feel good to be helping this person, even though this person didn't necessarily want the help. And so again, do you want someone who is your equal so that when you come home from your hard day of whatever it is that you're doing or life is happening, do you want someone who's a partner, or do you want someone that after all your hard stuff, you then also have to come home and take care of that person as well, walk on eggshells and take care of them and be the only one who's trying to move forward in your life while they're just taking advantage of you making the money and you doing well for yourself. I mean, that was something that was a big piece for me. And I find that over and over again with clients, that's a big part for them as well, is feeling like when they meet someone and they have to be taken care of, that is actually an attraction. But instead, when we start the recovery, we want that to be something that repels you. So think about it when you meet someone. Is it someone that I want to fix? I want to help? Then I need to walk away from them. If it's someone that I feel like they're my equal, they're also looking to do bigger and better things for themselves, then yes, I can continue to see them. And also not be afraid to end a relationship if you see that it's only one way, you giving while the other person is constantly taking, because that's going to be an uneven balance. Not that in life there's not going to be giving and taking, but it shouldn't always be one-sided. So you want to really pay attention as you continue with a relationship and see how that give and take is and how supportive you are of each other and how good you are at listening, which also goes into the boundaries. What are your boundaries? Now, I always say I didn't even learn what a boundary was till I was 34 years old, but what are things that are important to you? So it's important to me to have someone who is on a constant self-growth journey. That was something that was important to me. I had a boundary of I was not going to be with someone who was not able to talk things through if there was an argument. My boundary, if somebody curses or screams at me, I will not continue a conversation with them. Remember, the boundaries are for you. What will you allow in your life? What is okay with you? Who gets to be someone that spends time with you? All right, we need to stop trying to focus on making everybody else happy and start being a little bit better at protecting our energy. And we do that by making sure that we have healthy boundaries when it comes to healing and being able to move forward. Again, hopefully this all makes sense to everybody. And I think boundaries, we could spend a whole day just talking about boundaries. The next thing, when we are rebuilding ourselves, we have lost or lowered our self-esteem. When we lower our self-esteem, toxic types of people like narcissists, like borderline personality, like sociopaths, all the toxic types of people that are coming around us. And of course, not all borderline personality people are going to be abusive. I'm not saying that at all. All I'm saying is the people that we are looking at to try to help and save and fix that have now been abusive towards us and taken advantage of that goodness and that loyalty that we are, they have now lowered our self-esteem. They have made us to feel like we are less than ourselves. And they do that really like underlying over time. So sometimes it's very in your face obvious, like the malignant narcissist where it's like so obvious because they're physically abusive, they're yelling, screaming, whatever. But what about some of the ones that have told you, hey, you really want to keep working out? Your arms are looking really big. Or, you used to look really good in that dress that you had. Or, I liked you a lot better when you were working that other job. Or I liked you a lot better when you were just taking care of the kids. Or I liked you a lot better before we got married, or you were so different, or whatever. Any of those things that just is like this underhanded negative types of comments that really start to make us question ourselves. And it works so well because this is someone that we love. This is someone that we are in a partnership with. So when someone that we care about tells us terrible things about ourselves, it breaks us down, especially when we are not feeling worthy and we already don't have that self-esteem to begin with and walk away from people that start doing that to us. Now we have somebody, so we're already feeling maybe not so great about ourselves. And now we have this other person and they know those buttons to push for us. They know us so well, those areas that we don't feel good enough about ourselves, and they use that to their advantage. And having that lowered self-esteem, they will use that as a button to try to keep you around and manipulate you more. So what can you do? Start with some positive affirmations, some little things that you can say to yourself. I am worthy. I am important. My thoughts matter. Look at some of those positive affirmations. You can do a Google search for give me some positive affirmations about recovery or to increase my self-esteem. It'll give you a whole bunch of different ideas. One of my favorite things is to have my clients take their lipstick and write, whatever their affirmation is, like you are enough. That's a really popular one. I am enough. And they write that with lipstick on their mirror so that they see it every morning when they get ready. Try that. See if that, and say it, read it out loud and say it to yourself every single time when you're sitting there brushing your teeth. I am enough. So that way it's about you, not you're enough or, just, I am enough. So use some of those positive affirmations that will actually start to help you refocus and start really thinking about what you think about. When you start to say to yourself, oh, you're so dumb, you always do this, or you're so clumsy or whatever, when you start to hear your inner self-dialogue say negative and hurtful things to yourself, look at it, notice it, and reclaim it. So when you notice that you're saying it, say to yourself, oh, there I was saying something negative about myself, and then replace it with that positive affirmation. A little something that you can do that I share with clients is if there's some common ones that you do, oh, you're so clumsy, or, oh, you're so dumb, you always do this. Write those things down that you might say often to yourself in your head and come up with positive affirmations to replace it. So when you notice like, oh, you're so clumsy, the positive thing that you could turn around is like, everybody stumbles sometimes. Or, hey, I hope somebody saw that because that was funny. You know, like whatever thing that you can actually replace it with, so that when you have that automatic thought, you can say, oh, I did that. And instead you can change it to the more positive thought. That's going to start to know. So the thinking about what we think about, not just being, so many of us are in automatic mode. We just live in this automatic place where we have a feeling or we think about it, then we act on it. We try to make ourselves feel better. And a lot of times feeling better is ignoring or compartmentalizing it. So again, we want to be able to be aware of the things that we're thinking about and be that adult that maybe we needed as a child, or that person that we needed to take care of us. We can be that for ourselves. And it starts with the way that we are thinking. The next thing to think about is the being able to let go. You know, we don't need to go into a big thing with forgiveness, and that could be part of it. The biggest thing with forgiveness is forgiving ourselves, but being able to let go. So I started this off by saying, I don't necessarily like to focus on the narcissist or the person with whatever mental illness that's there. I like to focus on toxic relationship recovery because it's more of a focus on ourselves. Part of letting go is to stop researching and becoming experts on all the things that are wrong with the other person. It is a beautiful gift that you give to yourself by taking that beautiful energy and giving it to yourself in order to heal, and not spending any more time researching who they are, what's wrong with them, ways to strategize, dealing with them, all that kind of stuff. I want you to just focus on you and your healing and moving forward. Start thinking about your future, what you want your life to look like, possibilities of this new life that you're creating. I want you to start focusing on those goals as opposed to what's already happened. What's already happened is going to keep re-traumatizing you and is going to give you more anxiety. I'm not saying ignore. When feelings come up, you feel them, but we don't need to live there. We can feel them. We can look and see what triggered that feeling, and then we can decide to move forward. We don't have to stay reliving it over and over and over again. That's just us hurting ourselves all over again. I don't want them to have that type of power. So once you go through this healing, then we want to start building healthier relationships. I mean, isn't that what we want out of all of this? So one of my favorite things that I love to do, one of my favorite parts of my jobs, is to help people start building healthy relationships. So recommendations that I have are going to Facebook groups and look for local Facebook groups of things that you like to do. It could be single groups. You're not going there to go and meet a new significant other. That's not the focus yet when you're looking on leaving and healing from toxic relationships. The focus has got to be on you. Again, if you start trying to date someone right away, you're taking the focus off of your healing. So we don't want to focus on the past, and we don't want to start immediately jumping into another relationship because that's the future. Let's focus on right now. So you're going to start creating new friendships because a lot of us have lost some of those along the way, or we didn't really have healthy relationships to begin with. So I always like the examples of singles groups. Do like active ones where they're going and doing things together. That's a really good one. And I'm always a big proponent of hiking, kayaking, things like that are outdoors. There's a lot of studies that talk about being outdoors just in and of itself actually helps to make us feel better. So now you're doing activities with other people, you're moving your body, you're getting the vitamin D, which we know is the feel-good chemical. And we also are interacting with other people that have similar interests as us. So doing those kinds of outdoor activities are very helpful. Another favorite thing other than Facebook groups that are local to your area would be to download the Meetup app on your phone. I think you can download it on your regular laptop or whatever also, but it's meetup.com. And you can do whatever vicinity that you want in your area and look up things that maybe you've thought about doing in your life ever. So like I looked up Reiki healing circles. I take that back. I didn't look it up. I just looked at activities in my area And I remember going through it. I'm like, Reiki, what is that? I'm not even sure if I pronounced it right when I read it. But I remember looking, I'm like, I've heard of that before. That sounds kind of cool. And I ended up liking it so much. I'm now a Reiki level 2 practitioner. And it's one of the things I do with helping clients. And then David is a Reiki master teacher. So, those are part of things of rebuilding who you are and learning who you are. You're also going to start bringing in new people that will have similar interests as you do, where we can start practicing healthy communication, where we can start practicing letting go of people that are not supporting us, where we can start practicing using our voice and sharing our wants and needs with other people. It is a great way of really building the group of people that we are spending time with. And it's also a good opportunity to build with people that don't know you, that are new to you, and build up those more positive people and your ability to communicate. A big thing, and I'm going to kind of end up with this, is we have to look at how we are communicating. I would say that a lot of us that think we are really great at communicating have some issues with being assertive versus aggressive versus passive. When we are passive, we are not honestly communicating with other people. We're not actively, honestly communicating our wants and needs. And then people walk all over us, they use us, and we are not happy. And if we're aggressive, maybe we've been passive and like, no one ever listens to me, and now we're yelling and screaming at the person, that's not going to work either. When we are assertive, we are keeping in, we're thinking of a win-win for both parties, but we are actively sharing our wants and needs in a way that's not hurtful to the other person. But we are not afraid to share those wants and needs. It is amazing to me how many people are in relationships with others that they're afraid to talk about the big issues. You should not be afraid to talk to your partner or even your friends about literally anything and everything that you are going through. Because if you're not able to talk to it, especially your significant other, then why are you in a relationship with them? If you can't talk to them as if they're your best friend, then why are you with them? We have to be able to, we should be talking to everybody else about what's bothering us. We should be able to talk to them. And if we can't, then there we go. We've got a good sign that we are in a toxic relationship. So these are just some tips and tricks on healing, of like really understanding what a toxic relationship is, and also ways to heal. And of course, we go through, when people work with us and we go through our healing sessions, I always talk about the 6 steps, which is identifying the toxic relationship, building a team to make sure that you are getting the right resources and support to heal, discover who you are, which is that self-esteem, those passions, really creating that group of people, understanding yourself, look at the limiting beliefs that you have about relationships, whether or not they are possible to create or not. If you don't believe that creating healthy relationships is possible, chances are pretty good you're not going to actually create one, because you don't even think it's possible. So you'll sabotage yourself. The next one is to pursue reconnecting to your gut, reconnecting to your ability to communicate, all that good stuff. And then of course, goal setting, which is take, like what I said in the very beginning, is, making sure that you're drinking your 96 ounces of water every single day, or your green smoothies, and making sure that you're drinking that to kind of get that, get your body working as well. What are your goals? If your goal is to start dating again, do you need support in dating? What are the things that you're looking for in a relationship? But again, before we start the dating, we've got to work through the healing place, or we're going to repeat the patterns again moving forward. So I hope this was helpful. Definitely go back and rewatch anything or re-listen to anything. If you have any questions, you can always make sure that you reach out. I want to give just a little plug. Go over to thrivehivecommunity.com and get on the wait list for this really cool announcement that we're going to be offering you. If you've ever thought about getting help for healing from toxic relationships, you are 100% going to want to jump onto that list to be the first one to find out about this really great opportunity that we're going to be launching in the next few days. So definitely go over to there. Another good resource is going over to beinglovedshouldn'thurt.com/links. And there's a bunch of different resources there for you to get help and to start healing from these toxic relationships again. So on that note, hopefully that was helpful for all of you. If you have any questions, make sure you reach out to me and ask me any questions, whether it's about healing, working with us, whatever it is you have questions about. Remember, we are here to serve. We are here to help you. And the best gift that you can give yourself and the rest of the world is working on you and stepping into your full power. It is a huge disservice when you are not happy, because it is way better to do all the great things when you are feeling good, when you are feeling empowered, when you are feeling supported. So on that note, as always, it was great hanging out with all of you. Have a wonderful night and see you on the next episode. Bye, everybody.